Hello, Jennifer. I am Mathieu Rouault. Thank you to everybody for being here. Je m'appelle Mathieu Rouault, donc je suis journaliste scientifique à Grand Labo. I'm a science journalist. And we will talk about innovation here at WIRE2022. As Jennifer said, Europe and its regions at the crossroads, seizing the opportunities of a new wave of breakthrough innovations, a policy perspective. Europe's prosperity, global competitiveness, and social model will require seizing the opportunities that a new wave of breakthrough innovation will bring about. In addition, Europe needs to ensure that new innovations are steered towards achieving Europe's objectives, notably Europe's Green Deal. Please join us, yes, panelists. Dear panelists, if you're here, you can come and join the conversation. And to achieve this, Europe needs to create the right policy framework. This will require building synergies and strengthening coordination between different levels of governance, EU, national, and regional. And to discuss these points, I am very pleased, to welcome our 4 panelists. Please take a chair. I will give you a mic if you want. It's okay? You want to be here? Yes. So, Josiane Cutajar is lawyer, politician, and member of the European Parliament for Malta. Good morning. Do you have a mic? No, you don't. We will give you a mic just in a few seconds. Can we give a microphone to our panelists? Is there enough mic? It would be great. We have also Jonah Drake that we just heard. Hello, thank you for being here. And Adela Radilova, board member of Moravian Silesian Innovation Center Ostrava. I would say MSEC. It's a regional innovation center in the Czech Republic, established in July 2017. That's it? And
yeah, we are kind of startup, so in innovation.
Okay. And last but not least, of course, Marco Marcula, Vice President of the European Committee of the Regions. Thank you very much for joining us. So we were a little bit late, so I'm gonna ask right now the first questions. This 1-hour conversation will be split in 4 parts. The first will be all about defining breakthrough innovation. What is it? Do we have a common point of view in Europe on what is it and what it is not? Secondly, we will talk about the current challenges. And I've heard you, Mrs. Drake, and I have a lot of questions on what you said. The third part will be enabling conditions for breakthrough innovations, and we will finish, if we have enough time, with final thoughts and final recommendation if you have. First thing first, Joanna Drake, you talk about an innovation, a revolution. Would you say that this expression, breakthrough innovation, everybody understood it in the same way through Europe?
If you ask me if there's a definition, actually, the last time I checked, there isn't. Not even on the Oslo manual, apparently. It's not defined. But of course, I think all of us can actually come to some conclusion as to what it evokes in terms of breakthrough innovation. I hinted already in my speech this morning that we're talking about something that's disruptive, something that's a game changer, something that actually is some sort of paradigm shift, something that actually creates new opportunities, but actually looks at the market, looks at a solution to a problem, maybe a problem that doesn't even exist yet, but in a different way. I remember in my recent past, I was working for another DG in the European Commission, and that was environment. And there we were very much marshalling on circular economy, which now we like to believe as well that the European Union is doing so. And we use the term paradigm shift a lot. in the sense that. And if I just had to give an example of what we have in mind when we say, what does it mean, game changer and all this? I mean, I gave already some examples in terms of distribution, in terms of the way we interact, in terms of how the service becomes closer to the consumer, and we sort of decide ourselves, what we want, how we want it, when we want it delivered, this sort of on-demand type of business model. That's very much breakthrough. But when we're talking in a larger scale as to the global challenges that we have ahead of us, or that are actually now, we're talking of a plethora of innovation, in breakthrough innovations, which means that we have to keep thinking in terms of actually how we're going to disrupt the known models in order to solve these challenges. Otherwise, with the old models, we're never going to get to solving these challenges. There's other examples in medicine, those of you in the medical field, but also, even if you're involved in raw materials, we know that today there are materials that are produced that are 100 times stronger than iron, but weigh a fraction of the weight. So this is what we mean. And of course, when you have a lot of breakthrough innovation, you've got an innovation revolution, if you like.
Thank you. Mrs. Hadilova, can you give examples of services your center provides to support entrepreneurship? And is breakthrough innovations a concern at your level? How do you see that?
Yeah, it is. It is a concern at the local level as well. But before I will go into more details, I probably have to explain from which region I come from. As it was said, I'm from the Moravian Silesian region. It's northeast part of the Czech Republic, so very east part of the European Union. We are the region in the transition, so we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. As it was also pointed out in the beginning, we were established as Innovation Agency only back in July 2017, so we have a vision to develop the innovation ecosystem in our region, because it was very old mining region, and our president of the region has a vision to basically go from coal mining to data mining, so a lot of challenges ahead of us. What we have to do before we have more breakthrough innovations in our region, we have to basically transform the mindset of people living in our region, and I think it's the most difficult and challenging transformation.
And we'll talk about this in this roundtable.
And just going back to the services,
yes.
The services we offer to the companies and also to the startups with potential to disrupt the market are tailor-made services. So basically, we talk to the company, we identify the needs, and then we prepare the specific support, because one support doesn't fit all. So it's really tailor-made to the needs of the companies, and it differs a lot.
Marco Marcola, how do you discuss of this question at the European Committee of the Regions?
First of all, so I think that the theme of this conference, Breakthrough Innovation, that is really important, because we do need those innovations, not just technological or social, but especially, let's call it societal innovation, so that what we heard in the speech of the president of the university, she addressed very much interdisciplinarity, and the different disciplines meet and create something new. And at the COR, Committee of the Region, because we are official part of the European Union decision-making, so all the major communications from the Commission come to us as well for a special opinion, and we prepare through our a bit more than 300 members. And there we debate a lot, and in a way, I link this as what we just heard about, the importance of thinking about the world of knowledge, not just Europe, but the transformation starts here, what is in our hands. So, and that's what we see strongly by the Committee of the Region as well, so that innovation, it's not just anymore the tradition that university has a good laboratory and innovation comes from there. It's meeting of people, different background, different disciplines, young and old, and so on. And that's I think, the key on this issue, so that it's a human mind. And that's why we want to invest more on the human capital, and on that, so link that strongly to sustainability. All what we call 4 elements or 4 dimensions of sustainability. Because in different languages, this ecological and economic, they are quite clear. Then social, in some languages, is very broad, but in some it's quite narrow. So we want to stress cultural dimension as well. So it's all about the learning, and all of this is so crucial in innovation. And
it's collaboration, it's all about people, of course. And we will talk about mindset, of course, and cultural question dealing about innovation. Thank you once again for being with us, Josiane Cutaja. You, as a member of the European Parliament for Malta, what do you expect from breakthrough innovations? How do you see that? What hopes and, according to you, worries are attached to these radical changes?
This conference also today, a timely one indeed, also in view of the challenges that we are facing after the pandemic, and also the Russian-Ukraine war and other challenges which we are facing and want to tackle as the European Union, both when it comes to digital and environmental transition, for example. And indeed, yes, I come from the smallest member state, from the island of Gozo, which faces double insularity. And I know firsthand how important it is to have innovative breakthroughs for all of our regions and to really leave no one behind, because we have this tendency that the innovative breakthroughs and these disruptive innovations happen normally in metropolitan capitals. And therefore, it's essential that here we're speaking about how to address also the innovative gap when it comes to territoriality. But going back to your question, now on a more generic view, yes, when I think of these innovations, I think of revolutionary innovations, of research which is then coupled with also implementing solutions which brings positive societal outcomes, also research and innovators and investors who look at what the market needs, what society needs, what challenges there are, and acts in a timely manner. And I believe that COVID has also we learned a couple of lessons from it, that we need to be agile and adapt in an agile manner, and we need to act fast. And the same when it comes to breakthrough innovations, one has to look at the market, at what the market needs, one has to readapt, one has to come up with solutions, new products, new services to address those demands in an agile manner. And that's what comes to mind, yes, when I think of breakthrough innovations. When it comes to challenges and risks, what comes to mind is pictures from the Ukraine situation of how disruptive innovations could be awful when they come into the wrong hands. So it's important for us to focus also as the European Union that we see to it that we continue also promoting these innovations in a positive manner of how they could bring better societal goals that we are looking at and better benefits rather than disruptions in a negative manner.
Is there a disruption between citizens and innovation? Do you understand my question, which was absolutely not an anticipated question? Do you think that everybody feel concerns about breakthrough innovations? Is it hard someone to convince people of Malta, for example, to say to them, we need to go further? How do they react when you speak about future in those terms?
First of all, when we speak of the citizens, we have to make them aware too. And when we speak of the citizens, there are different categories. There are researchers who I believe are much more convinced of these breakthrough innovators. There are entrepreneurs whom we need to continue convincing to couple up with the research, including our SMEs. Europe's backbone of the economy is our SMEs, and we need to get them on board because our SMEs could really be at the forefront if we give them the enabling conditions to help us in breakthrough innovations, which also balance out with the ambitious goals which the European Union is putting forward in both the environmental and digital environments. And yes, when we speak to our citizens, it's also important to have our communities on board, our regional authorities, our local government, the local politicians, but also the local policy stakeholders, where we speak to our citizens on the importance that we need to continue innovating. So yes, it's about how we as institutions, as politicians, as policymakers, as researchers, entrepreneurs, communicate with other citizens who are not yet exposed to the economic and societal benefits that there could be once these are unleashed. And we need to give practical examples to our citizens who are not exposed to this reality. And here I mention, for example, smartphones, which came about when the iPhone was invented. And also how important it is that we all adapt, whether we're leading a small shop at the corner in a village, for example, via digitalization, or whether we're leading a huge company. Because let's remember, for example, the example of Kodak, which was leading forward with quality photography, but since it wasn't able to adapt adequately, when digital photography came about, then it went into bankruptcy. So it's these examples, practical examples, from the everyday life of our citizens that we need to explain for our citizens to connect better to this important concept.
Thank you. Let's talk about the principal challenges that we have to cope with all as far as innovation is concerned. Joanna Drake, can breakthrough innovation be decreed, be decided? And you spoke about agility. What does it mean exactly? Yes, it seems to work now.
Is it working?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear it? Thank you. Okay, what does agility mean in innovation? I think agility means putting innovation to the best use and all the time, being on your toes all the time. This is what innovation is about. I think it's about having a very systemic and comprehensive approach. That's what it means, agility. But what does it actually mean in practice? Are you going to drive innovation in order to solve your problems? Are you going to say, we need more investment in hydrogen? We need more investment in alternative fuels. We need more investment in renewables. We need more investment in, soil without fertilizers. I mean, are you going to drive it, or are you going to let it happen organically? I mean, I think by definition, innovation is organic, by definition. This is why it happens. But is the innovator addressing a challenge that already exists, or is the innovator driven to invent because he's got or she's got the funds available, or because there is funding available, or is it because they know that they have the skill set around them, which is, within certain affordability, that they can actually, so availability and affordability, and which they know that they can source very, very easily. What are the reasons that drive the innovation? I think maybe your question would have been better asked, what are you doing, what are you trying to encourage in the European Union? Because we cannot decide what a country does in the policy of innovation. But what we are trying to do with our budget, with our policy making, with our political approach is to have a combination of approaches. In other words, both top-down and bottom-up. Why? Because we need to encourage innovation for its sake. Who tells us that today's Nobel Prize winner for physics is not today inventing a solution for a problem that will appear in 10 years' time or 20 years' time? Should we not fund this innovator today? Should we not recognize the innovation and the value of that innovation? Should we say, no, it's not addressing a global challenge of today, so we don't recognize it, we don't fund it? Shouldn't there be a combination of both approaches. If there are global challenges, which we are all acknowledging, we have declared the European Union to be the first climate-free continent by 2050. Doesn't that in itself drive us as a society, as a group of nations, a message to the world that yes, we will be supporting innovation on energy, on transport, on emissions, on all kinds of other ways of doing things that are less taxing on our global resources, that are actually going to bring back the biodiversity that we have lost. But of course, at the same time being inclusive, and this is what Marco was saying earlier, we cannot, and also what Josiane said, we cannot leave out people simply because they are not technology savvy. So it's not only about how deep tech can we go, it's about a combination of also social innovation methodologies. That's all inclusive, and that is also affordable. So of course it has to be a good combination between top-down and bottom-up. Bottom-up is translating in the European Commission as the Innovation Council. Okay, we are trying to acknowledge that this is organic and we'll support it. But we're also saying, and this we're saying via the missions that we can also talk about, we are acknowledging that there are 5 missions for us, the oceans, the cancer,
Yes, we'll talk about the new
climate.
missions, of course.
But all that is basically driving top-down, because we're saying, solve these global challenges, we are committed to this, so please, we will support you.
I saw you both agreed. A reaction, maybe, Mr. Makula?
Yeah, I would definitely react because the innovation come through the interaction between people. And that's why I think in recent years the European Union has as well in many programs talked more and more about the ecosystems, place-based ecosystems, because we need this interaction. And we have realized during the COVID period that what happens if we are just operating through the virtual reality. But we need this interaction between people, so the mental issues are so crucial, and that's why the mindset, and that's why the role of universities is so crucial. But we need to create so like innovation gardens or platforms for creating new things, living labs and so on. So there are a lot of good examples all around
It's
Europe.
more about co-elaboration than transfer. Is it a good, is concept still a good word? It's
kind of orchestrating different activities so people come together, take the existing knowledge in their own use. Spend more time, not just starting from the scratch, but taking what someone else or some other parts of the world have already invented and documented and use that. But it needs this entrepreneurial mindset so that we don't know what this group of young students can create. And we have a good example on Finland. I was part of the team creating Aalto University when we merged engineering and science with business and with art and design. And I wanted to organize an important event from my perspective with the students, but they said that, no, that's the totally wrong timing because they are having, that was 10 years ago, a special day of failure. So thinking about risk-taking and creating and learning from failing as well. So this is part of the entrepreneurial mindset.
Failcon. Maybe we have not enough Failcon in France too. It's a good concept of event, but for those kind of events to appear, we have to develop a mindset, a particular mindset about which we've talked already. Do we lack a risk-taking mindset in some regions of Europe?
Definitely. Oops. The history, I looked a bit the history of the WIRE. So because I've been maybe half of these WIRE conferences learning in the beginning, and when was it 3rd or 4th of the WIRE conferences in Ireland. And at that time I was, let's say, much younger than member of the committee of the region, and I had the privilege to make a report, an opinion on closing the innovation divide. And that was very important debate at that time, and I think that it still is, but you can and you should, you can tackle that by creating attractive learning environments, innovative environments, and letting the young people go abroad, work there or study there, but make it so attractive that they will come back to their own home country or some other countries. And when in Finland, I'm from Helsinki and Espoo, so when we created this new multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary university, Aalto, focusing especially on innovation and change, how to make changes to happen. So one of our drivers was really this, so that we want to attract more foreigners. Now we have, in 12 years' time, we have recruited around 100, 150 professors from abroad. So we wanted to create more links around the world for this world of knowledge. And I think this is something that as well with the students, so there are a lot of students from, I've interviewed several of them and so that, why did you come here? No, my friends told that this is the place to be. And then they came there, and I've been now going around and meeting with people for a month, but I've decided that I need to apply to get the permission to study here and so on. I'm part of the transformation for climate, for new entrepreneurship and so on. So that's the mindset, so that you can in a way feel that when you are working there or just meeting with your foreign friends. So they feel that there's something different. I think this includes the risk-taking and so on. So this is something that we need to be more focused on.
Mrs. Radilova, about this question of collaboration, good innovation systems depend on mutual understanding between industries, institutions, ECMA, etc. How do you judge it at your own level, the quality of this dialogue?
If I may just add something to the previous speaker, I think the level of entrepreneurship culture differs dramatically across the Europe. In my region, we are, when you look at the statistics of the Czech Republic, we are on the 14th place in the number of entrepreneurs per 1,000 economically active people. So we are, the worst in the Czech Republic. So we really try to work a lot in this area, basically to change the mindset from employee culture to entrepreneur culture. We are taking the example from Finland, actually one university from our region. So thanks a lot for this, and I think it will help us a lot. In our culture, we are really afraid of making mistakes, and that's the result of our educational system. It has been changing now, but it will take time. So, and I think what I see as the main and key role of MSIC is to encourage people to take a risk, to become the business, even though it's not a disruptive innovation. But I think you are the most successful entrepreneur if you 1 or 2 times or 3 times fail, and then you, for the 4th time, you are the successful one. And just for the mutual cooperation, we want to hear the official version or the unofficial one. So the official one is, as every region in Europe, we have our smart specialization strategy, giving some domains, the main focus. We have the implementation structure, we have the innovation council, we have the different working groups, and that's it. It's on a paper, and officially this is the cooperation, but unofficially, and I think it really works because for the innovation council we have the active involvement of the leaders of the region. So we have the president of the region, mayor of the biggest city in our region. We have three rectors of the universities. We have 4 representatives of business, of SMEs and large companies. The discussions are very lively, let's say. We open different topics, but in the end, they come and they bring a conclusion. In the working groups, which is a bit on bottom level, let's say, it's even much better because we have different experts from universities, from companies, bringing to the table the needs they see in the ecosystem. They collaborate on possible solutions, so they bring new ideas, new activities, new services. And I think the best sign of trust and good cooperation is that even private companies are willing to devote their own resources and money to try these services. And I think this is the best sign that the cooperation works, because company doesn't fund something which doesn't make sense. So just
another challenge is the question of the territorial gap. We can speak about it. Coming from a peripheral region, do you sometimes, Mrs. Kutajar, do you sometimes fear that breakthrough innovations would create those territorial gaps between regions, and how helping avoiding it? How to avoid it?
The question, this is a reality which we've been facing, and speaking not now of breakthrough innovations only, but it already existed before. So we know how that we have these territorial gaps that we're being faced with, whether it's the digital territorial gap, which has even been accentuated during the pandemic, but also other gaps between regions which were already there. And yes, it's a reality that if gaps were already there in other sectors, when it comes to breakthrough innovations, we can risk that this gap even widens further. And here I wanted to make reference to the 8th report, the latest report on economic, social, and territorial cohesion, which spoke about these gaps in innovations, not only in between different member states, so you already have some member states which innovate more than others, but also when it comes to the various regions. And this is something important that we keep in mind, that it's important today that we are discussing this during the Week of Innovative Regions, because we need to, yes, recognize our challenges, as previous speakers have said, and work upon them. So we know that this gap exists, and we need to see how we can tackle this gap. And when it comes to tackling gaps, we need to keep in mind that we're speaking about jobs, about economic growth, about social impact. So this is effect on the everyday life of our citizens, our workers, and our entrepreneurs. But stopping at the fear is no use. And therefore, whilst we recognize that the challenge is there, that the gap is there between the periphery and the metropolitan center, we need to see what we can do. And here I wanted to refer also to the European Innovation Council work program, which gives attention also and provides measures to address this geographical balance, which needs to be struck. And also in line with the Enterprise Europe Network, comes up with these initiatives to help the scaling up of these innovations, also from areas and SMEs which are not already innovating. And this is very much important, because that is where, as a European Union, we need to work. If we really need to leave no one behind, as the Commission so rightly puts a lot of emphasis on, we need to see to it that we have these initiatives which help in the scaling up of the disadvantaged ones, or those coming from the periphery or areas which are not normally exposed to innovation. Let's remember that when there's innovation, this will lead to other innovation. And therefore, it's important that we tackle these areas which are not already innovating, to help them then have this ripple effect onto others.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about enabling conditions for breakthrough innovations. It's a topic that I would like to address right now with you. You have to go? Oh, sorry. Thank you very much for being with us. Maybe we can applaud Joanna Drake. You have to go. But we can continue a few minutes with the other panelists, if you agree. So, what did? Let's talk about the way to facilitate the development of breakthrough innovations at the regional level. We can talk about simplicity with you, Mrs. Radilova, about recurrent fundings. Maybe can we share with us some ideas about ways to facilitate innovations at the regional level?
I will try. Thank you very much for this question. if we want to facilitate the development of innovations in broader sense, I think there are two levels. The one is on the level of the local institutions, being innovation agencies or different types of institutions, and then also on the companies level. I am sorry, I might be a bit provocative, but on the companies level, I think there is a plenty of different support on different levels, regional, national, EU level. I think all of them are prepared in order to help the SMEs. But on the other hand, SMEs are here to, work on the innovation, to produce, to put things on the market, and to basically do business. They are not here to be experts on different supporting schemes and funding in the EU.
Yes, it's a jump by itself.
Yeah, so that's one thing. So maybe make this thing simple for the companies. It's easy to say, it's difficult to be done. I think if you look to the big companies which provide different services, they all, each customer has so-called key account managers, so we can have these local agencies, key account managers for each company. I know that this is partly done by the EEN, but if you are a new organization entering the system, you don't have a chance to basically have this funding. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I am not an entrepreneur. I don't know how many entrepreneurs are sitting in this room, but I think the best way is basically to ask young, successful entrepreneurs what would have helped them on their way to become successful, and then learn from it and try to prepare the support measures for this. And on the level of innovation agencies, we need, kind of stability and not be politically vulnerable, because we are funding from the regional government, and if the politicians keep changing, then there is a lot of instability, and a lot of good work we've done is lost.
So what to do?
What to do? Kind of operating grants for innovational agencies on the local level. I know that this is partly covered by the EN, but there are new regions, new emerging innovation agencies, and they need this kind of support as well. Basically, I had the last call I had with SMEs was 20 minutes or 40 minutes ago, and I know what the SME needs, and then I can, point them to the right direction. But to be able to do this, we need money for the employees of innovation agencies. So that's.
It's also a question of money, but not only. Not only. It's also a question of bottom-up approach. You've mentioned this, but I would like you to explain more precisely what you mean about this approach. Do we need more of a bottom-up approach, and how to organize it at the regional level concretely?
I think that maybe the best example, very timely now, is what Joanna Drake already explained a bit about these missions, because European Union has now launched 5 missions. They are kind of new and very, very vital new instrument, clear target, ambitious target for 2030. And the first one that started to move to concrete action has been now this city innovations, how to become climate neutral by 2030, not 2050. And use the different innovations, smart technology, smart city developments. And we have collaborated very effectively with the Commission on that. We now the Committee of the Regions, and I've been the rapporteur on this. So we'll talk tomorrow in one of the sessions about these missions more, but the core on that is when we start on marketing to our cities and regions, that now it's time for you to make this concrete collaboration with your local university, with your industry, with the citizens. Take the science and innovativeness as part of everyone's kind of privilege, but uniqueness as well. So how to work together to reach the climate neutrality target. So close to 400 cities applied to be among the pioneers. And they each need to document facts and what way they will be climate neutral by 2030. and the Commission elected now 100 of those, and actually I think it's today that these 100 has a joint virtual meeting. Committee of the Region, we support this very strongly. Next week we are launching a special partnerships for regional innovation together with the Joint Research Center and the whole Commission, so that how the regional decision makers, people like me, how we can be more innovative, and with instruments we could use that Joint Research Center already has developed, and how we then give feedback how to develop those instruments and tools further on. And I think this is really the only way that we can get those reaching the IPCC targets, because we need more innovations. And just one simple figure that in the energy sector, International Energy Agency figured out that around, if I simplify a bit, so you asked about simplicity, 1/3 of the technology exists that we need to be climate neutral by 2030. 1/3 of the technology innovations are somehow in the process between the industry and academia. And 1/3 is only on the, let's say, basic research or scientific research. So we need all of those, we need these new innovations, and with respect to money, so it's only part, although, as Joanna said, so Horizon Europe is the largest publicly funded program on research, but around 2/3 of the financing comes and is invested by the private sector. So we need to get those companies more integrated to the research of the universities to create these new science. We call even that the kind of handprint. So we create new solutions that the cities, regions can take through their public procurement, can take in their active use. So looking all the time to the future as well. And I think this is the key, that only by having this bottom-up, a strong instrument in all of those missions, that's the way to reach the ambitious targets.
Yes, but speaking about the link between universities and industries and companies, do they share the same agenda as far as research and innovation are concerned? And how to synchronize these agendas? I mean, an ordinary industry has to push on the market as quickly as possible a good solution to earn money, while universities have to play on the long term, and to, disruptive innovation don't come like that.
One that we heard a bit about the French policy on research and innovation. So we should actually do a bit more study and analyze what the different countries are doing. But like you did in the Ostrava, learn from Finland what we have done with the university, how to create this entrepreneurial mindset. So all levels, so in a way multi-governance. So we need EU, national, local and regional, but it needs to be inside every organization. If we take whatever region, so the political leaders of that need to see that innovation is the crucial instrument for that. They need to understand deeper on what is the role of innovation. Or if we go to Gozo Island, so I've been there as well talking with your people, and so how we can have entrepreneurship in islands. So it's not just tourism, but it's much broader issue. And so how we could collaborate between the regions. And that comes then, we all are on the same line or same playground inside the EU, and then hopefully more and more globally as well.
Thank you. Approximately 10 minutes before the end of this roundtable, sorry, but to end with this part of this conversation about enabling conditions for breakthrough innovations, Josiane Kutaja, which are the areas Europe should still improve in terms of innovation? It's a generic question, but it's done on purpose.
Also what the previous speaker was saying, it's important that, yes, we are all in the European Union and there are these opportunities, but I believe that we need to recognize also the different specificities of the various regions. So an entrepreneur, researcher coming from an island like mine may be in a different circumstance than another person coming from a different area within Europe. And the same when it comes to islands, entrepreneurs and researchers coming from islands face certain common challenges and certain permanent handicaps, but then there are different islands. So a remote island, an outermost region like Madeira may be different from the island of Gozo, for example.
But
And
what
that's
about,
why
what about, sorry, competition between them?
What about?
Competition, concurrence.
Yes, of course, we're living in an European Union, which is also competitive. So yes, there needs to be also on the ground the local ecosystem, which recognizes that one has to, the local authority should encourage, for example, synergies between the local entrepreneur, the local researcher, etc. So yes, we're living in a world of competition, but that's positive. Competition is not negative, but it could be positive because everyone strives to reach their full potential. And then going back to your question as to how can we improve? First of all, yes, we do have competition coming from the US and China, but it's not all doom and gloom in Europe. We're at the forefront of research, even when it comes to the quality of our researchers, of our publications, the number of researchers that we have, the university rankings. These are all positive aspects. And however, excelling at research doesn't mean that we will then excel at innovation. And I believe that's where we need to work more upon, that from the research we go into practical innovation then and implementing our research to active solutions, active breakthrough innovations. And for this to happen, we need to have a variety of enabling conditions. First of all, I really believe in the importance of synergies between the different European Union funding programs, for example, Horizon and cohesion funds. This is very much important. And here I also brought an example which I also read, which is a positive one, relating to the Seal of Excellence. So what the European Commission did is that it's recognizing through the Seal of Excellence the value of proposals, and where there are positive proposals which do not qualify for funds because there isn't enough funds under a particular program, it gives the Seal of Excellence, and then this proposal could be helped to also get funding from other bodies who have already this rest of mind assured that there's a high quality of the proposal there because the Commission has already analyzed there. But when we speak of enabling conditions, then we need other aspects. We need the skills, we need the governance in place, we need synergies also between, for example, cohesion policy and also the industrial policy, which is not always so automatic, which I really believe we should work more upon that. We need stronger public-private partnerships, we need innovative business models, but also overcoming issues of financing for these disruptive innovations. And there, as the European Union, I believe we need to do more. For example, we need to enhance the single market framework for common criteria, because it's like that we address regulatory barriers. And here I mention a current example we're speaking of at the European Parliament at the moment, which is having a common European charger. Having a common European charger would help so that breakthrough innovations in the digital field would also have their mind assured that there is an aspect where they won't face a regulatory barrier. And that's only one example. And then a stronger capital markets union to overcome issues of financing these disruptive innovations is very much important too, because we lag behind, for example, when we compare ourselves to the United States. These were only some examples, but yes, let's focus now on recognizing the gap, but then on recognizing that we need to work more on the enabling conditions and work more with the local ecosystem to make sure that the various regions, we recognize their specificities, but we help them also achieve their full potential in their different diversity, but in unison. Because after all, we say we're united in diversity, and we need to recognize those diverse conditions and unite them vis-a-vis enabling conditions, synergies, and funding programs.
Thank you very much. That would be one of my very last questions. But you've just mentioned United States, and this morning Joanna Drake spoke about China. I think it was Joanna Drake. Are they good models? It's not a question that I have prepared to ask, but are they good models for Europe, China, and the way they create innovations? Should we create something like Silicon Valley in Europe, or isn't it a good, objective goal?
There actually is quite a lot already going on, and diversity in Europe, so our different cultures and meeting here, so it creates a lot. And we have used, when we started at Aalto University, our students sent the students for a couple of weeks to Silicon Valley and come back and create something, not exactly that, but something more. So they had their established, they got the one old building, Venture Garage was the title there, but after a couple of months, so they said that, no, we'll change the label. It was Startup Sauna, so hot, but creative. So they wanted to move further from the Silicon Valley concept. And I'm really very much convinced that we have a lot of these kind of activities going on in Europe, different parts of Europe, and we need more this kind of collaboration. In our case, the students started to run Slush, the major entrepreneurship event, so attracting after a couple of years 20,000 participants, including 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 investors coming from United States, and they were clever enough. So how to get the US investors to Finland? Students organized a charter flight from Silicon Valley for the investors to fly to Helsinki, stay there 2 days, and then charter flight back. So they, in a way, created that, okay, how they can get, it's so complicated for many that, okay, if you are an investor or an angel on doing this, so that to organize this. So let the young people, let the students to create the ways that they feel are attractive, but they are based on their own ideas. And I think Europe is very well on this track now. We should focus a bit more on the Innovation Council financing or Horizon Council, more what you said about the Seal of Excellence. So the problem, it's too complicated system. So it should be that immediately when there is a good program approved in a way, but not funding, then EU should say that, okay, we will anyhow finance, let's say, half of that. And then those cities or regions who are, or universities who are part of that, they need to find the other half. So make it a straightforward exercise, but we need these breakthroughs as well. And the financing system in the EU is too complicated. It does not start from the needs of the local level as such. So too much time is spent on making the high quality applications, and a few, only 15%, 20% of them will be approved. And then what to do with the, again, try with the more or less the same concept again in some other financing. Too much time is spent on that level. It should be spent on the focus on the real activity.
This is the end of this roundtable, but to conclude, I would like to ask to each one of you if you had one piece of advice, one recommendation to share. A lot has been said, of course, but if just one idea to finish this roundtable, as far as yes, it's a hard question. As far as innovation is concerned, what would it be, this piece of advice, this recommendation, this final message?
The Russian-Ukraine war are also showing us and reminding us that we need to be agile and that we need to adapt ourselves to shocks that come about which we're not prepared to. And therefore, my piece of advice is to take this as a learning curve and to also work towards resiliency. And part of the resiliency of the European Union and our regions is definitely innovation.
Thank you very much, Adela Radilova. You have to wait just.
It works. Just because we talked about the breakthrough innovations, and I currently had we were trying to deal with one of the problems caused by non-existing regulations. So I think if we want to allow breakthrough innovations in Europe, we should have smart and timely regulations. It was linked to artificial intelligence and control and whose responsibility it is. Actually, the startup had a breakthrough technology. AI checked everything, and then a person had to come and check it again because there is no regulation. So, and the car maker wanted to be safe. So, smart and timely regulations.
Thank you. Markku Makula.
I was thinking a bit on this, and then I looked through this. It's about 15 pages. This our opinion on the missions, and look that there is one proposal which fits to this. So it's proposing on different governance level, establishing special committees for the future. So kind of inventing the future, reviewing foresight studies, do analyze the existing documents, and that could be working groups or committees different for different actor groups. So most important is actually university students or even secondary school students or entrepreneurs as well, without forgetting policymakers. Innovation should be the key word for every policymaker, and this helps a lot. So when it's a permanent committee, actually, as we created that in the Parliament of Finland already more than 20 years ago. I was at that time a member there, and so it was a big fight with the normal policymakers that can we have that, should that be the same level as Committee for Foreign Affairs or Social Affairs, and then we needed to have a vote in the plenary. And as a result, we put that special, that is a permanent from now on, one committee for every 4-year term, committee for the future, and meeting twice a week with experts, debating, analyzing, making these studies. And let me finish by saying that the Speaker of the Parliament, a lady, the First Lady who has been the Speaker of the Parliament, said after the vote, "I'm so happy that now even the Parliament has understood that the future is a permanent one. We want to invent the future."
Thank you very much. This is the end of this conversation. A huge thanks to you, Markku Makula, Adela Radilova, and Josiane Kutajar. Thank you very much. We can applaud them.